Most important thing you could ever learn, we're here talking in my kitchen late at night. If I could go back in time and learn one thing, I'm gonna tell it to you right now. It's this: you can only pick one thing that you want out of life, and if you pick the wrong thing, you'll never really be successful. Let me back up. My mentor, Joel Southwood, said, the worst thing in life is to get older and realize you got good at the wrong thing. And I see people that are very wealthy, but I don't admire them. I live here in Beverly Hills, there's billionaires all up and down the street. Doesn't mean I would trade lives for them. In fact, the best test is, I call it the exchange test. Would you trade lives? And the reason that almost anybody I meet, I wouldn't trade lives for them, is not because they're not smart, it's not because they're not good people. It's because, one simple thing, they're optimizing for the wrong thing. So let's say you say, I want to be an entrepreneur. That's not something you should optimize for. That's ridiculous. Here's why. You have one life. Maybe we go to heaven or hell after, maybe there's an afterlife, maybe there isn't. I've never been there, so I can't speak on it. But I can tell you, you get one chance on this planet. And if you optimize for an entrepreneur, what about your health? What about love? What about happiness? I know miserable entrepreneurs that are fat, out of shape. I don't want to be them. I know a dude that, not a close friend of mine, but a friend of an entrepreneur friend, and this guy's a billionaire, but he's so fat he can't get out of bed. He's $2 billion, he has a private 747 jet. So would I want to be him? No. He optimized for the wrong thing. He optimized to make $2 billion, but he forgot, why would you want to have $2 billion if you don't have health? I always remember what Joel Southwood said, nothing worse in life than realizing you got good at the wrong thing. That guy got good at the wrong thing. It's irrefutable. You cannot argue with that. Why would you give your health up to gain money? There's a saying that when people are young, they lose their health to get wealth, and when they're old, they use their wealth to get back their health. It's a circular logic, and circular in this case is illogical. It's stupid. People are stupid. If I could go back in time, I'd realize most people are lost. Literally, most people are lost. I'm talking about the people who write, I got the biggest book club in the world. I know top authors and all these people. They might be smart in one specific domain, but if you look at their life, I wouldn't exchange for it. Entrepreneurialism, capitalism, democracy, they're all an end. They're all a means to the end, and there's only one end, and that's a good life.
The lessons are that people will continue to make the same mistakes they've made. When people get scared, they all want to leave at one time, and we had them all want to leave at one time, and that'll happen again. But the good news is, if you look at the 20th century, in the 20th century, we had 2 world wars, we had the Great Depression, we had the flu epidemic, we had the Cold War, we had the atom bomb, you name it. The Dow Jones average went from 66 to 11,497. With all these terrible things happening supposedly at various times. America works. Just look at where we are now. The country really works. The trick is, it seems to me the obligation of a society as prosperous as ours is to figure out how nobody gets left too far behind. This country has all come about in a few hundred years. We had less than 4 million people, when we became a country. China had 300 million people at that time. Europe had about 75 million. They were just as smart as we were. They worked just as hard as we did. They had natural resources that were similar to ours. And yet we ended up with a quarter of the world's GDP, a few hundred years later. We've got something that works, and we don't want to mess that up.
Through most of our life, we get through life by reasoning by analogy, which essentially means kind of copying what other people do with slight variations. And you have to do that, otherwise it's mentally, you wouldn't be able to get through the day. But when you want to do something new, you have to apply the physics approach. Physics has really sort of figured out how to discover new things that are counterintuitive, like quantum mechanics. It's really counterintuitive. So I think that's an important thing to do. And then also to really pay attention to negative feedback and solicit it, particularly from friends. This may sound like sort of simple advice, but it's hardly anyone does that, and it's incredibly helpful.
And so I think a lot of times it's the discrepancy between our expectations and reality that shape the emotions that we have in response to any given situation, bad, good, etc. And so I think a lot of people can't control their state. You know, there's a big percentage of time where they're stressed and they think there's something wrong with that. And so I feel like a lot of people feel like there's something wrong with experiencing human emotions. And so they are stressed and then think there's something wrong with them. Or they are sad. And I know that this is the thing, the keyboards are, you know, their fingers are right on top of it. It's my belief, it is contrarian, I accept that. That it's the beliefs we have about our emotions that are the things that drive us mad. And so somebody's sad and then they tell themselves that they're bad because they're sad, or they're wrong to be sad, or they're a piece of shit because they're sad, rather than saying, isn't this a beautiful thought about human existence?